Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of the Dreams Are Real podcast. I'm Dan McPherson, and my job and the purpose of this podcast is to share stories and tools that inspire you and make it easier to follow your dreams. If you're feeling stuck or your dreams seem out of reach, I'd love to help. For more information about our coaching programs or to schedule a free one-on-one assessment, please visit leadersmustlead.com or email dmcpherson@leadersmustlead.com. Our guest today is retired Lieutenant and U.S. Navy SEAL Larry Yatch. He's an elite business strategist and the founder and CEO of SEAL Team Leaders. After being introduced to Larry by mutual friend Dan Zahner, who you may recall as the featured guest of episode 6, I was blown away and I'm thrilled to have him as a guest. The power of Larry's story, combined with a deep understanding of leadership and what it takes to win, have propelled him to an incredible and growing success as an entrepreneur and is sure to inspire you as well. During our conversation, Larry shares how he knew he wanted to be a SEAL from a very young age, used that singular focus to accomplish many dreams, find a family where he truly fit in, and to excel in every aspect of leadership. After being forced to retire at 28, due to a massive back surgery, Larry turned his focus to entrepreneurship and has since helped many others achieve the extraordinary success they seek in life. His stories of combat are powerful, as are the transformations he is helping to create as founder and CEO of SEAL Team Leaders. Larry is clearly driven to bring his unique brand of adventurous training to entrepreneurs around the world, and you won't want to miss this. For more info about Larry Yatch, visit larry360.com and sealteamleaders.com. For powerful behind-the-scenes info and discussions about our podcast, search for the Dreams Are Real podcast group on Facebook and join our growing community. And now, here's my conversation with Larry Yatch. Welcome to the Dreams Are Real podcast, where we aim to ignite the fire that allows you to unleash your greatest potential. I'm your host, Dan McPherson, and I'm on a mission to help you own your story on the way to building your ideal life. The first step toward achieving your dreams is to overcome the momentum of zero. Take a step and let that motion dispel the emotions of fear, worry, or self-doubt. No matter where you are in your life or your career, only you can make that choice. The good news, you've got this. Why? Because dreams are real. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Dreams Are Real podcast. I'm your host, Dan McPherson. I'm glad you are joining us for another episode, and I'm very glad to have my guest with me as well. An elite leadership strategist, the founder and CEO of SEAL Team Leaders, and a retired SEAL Lieutenant, Larry Yatch, is joining us. And Larry, I'm glad to have you with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
And I've been following your exploits for some time, thanks to a mutual friend, Dan Zahner, who's also a previous guest on the show. And ever since I encountered what you do in the world, I've been fascinated. I watch your videos. I connect with what you talk about and what you share in the world. And I'm thrilled to be able to share it with our audience.
I'm thrilled to be here to be able to share it with more people. So this is working out for both of us.
That's a win. I listed 3 different things that you could be known by. When you are asked now, at this point in your life, how do you respond when people ask what you do?
And I've been refining this. I mean, for any entrepreneur out there, you know that's one of the, I don't know, it depends. Like I've found, Ann and I've run 4 different businesses, grown 4 different businesses over our entrepreneurial journey. It really does amaze us that we're still in business, right? Still be entrepreneur out here fighting we're coming on to 14 years, right? And just the idea that, most businesses fail within a year, to have a business that lasts 5 years is incredible. To have a business that lasts 10 years is pretty amazing. Like, so that really just dawned on me recently. But one of the things I absolutely hated for years was when people asked, what do you do? And Ann and I, so Ann's my wife, that we've been in business together. this whole time. We would have this weird game of chicken to see who would talk first. So it's been a journey, but I have to say, for once, I'm actually really confident in the answer, with all the work we've been doing recently and refining. So I love that title that you said was Elite Leadership Strategist, is where for the first time I really enjoy that identity, because that's what we do, right? Being able to bring really elite principles of leadership into the lives of entrepreneurs and companies, and ultimately doing that in a very strategic way. One of the big differences between myself and many of the other SEALs out there that talk is that having an officer role, a role of management my entire career, brings a very different perspective than many of those that just are there telling you stories that are very inspiring, right? It's a different concept. So that strategy side and bringing those leadership principles to really focus on increasing revenue and profit through clarifying vision, purpose, and passion, both in life and business. And that's a key part with someone that has been in business with their wife, right? Their spouse the whole time. Like, it's hard enough being an entrepreneur, much less having an entrepreneurial spouse, where we have worked hand in hand, side by side in this whole journey. Being able to do that, where we realize that there is no difference between our personal life and our business life. All we're doing is life, and making sure that we have that ability to do that on a business front, a personal front, a family life effectively.
I love what you say, that there really is only one life. That's a conversation I've had with a number of clients recently who say they're trying to find balance between things, and it's more balance within things, right? That you're trying to, you look and you say, I don't have a personal life or a work life. I think even if you're not working with your spouse, there's a lot of truth to that you have one life and it's how you spend it.
Yeah. And it comes to where, when you talk about that, then it isn't, is there balance? I don't know what you're trying to balance. I mean, you can't, I guess trying to balance between life and death is the only balance you got when you're talking about life, which I have run that narrow, razor's edge for many years as a SEAL, but ultimately it isn't. And this is, well, I would be interested to hear from you. So what do you think is the most valuable asset that we have?
So many people say time, and I think for many years I've said that. I think our attention would probably be, our attention or our focus would argue for being the top spot there.
I'm completely with you on that. Right. 100% agree. And that, time is a construct that we make up, and we've all had experiences where we have extended time, where one moment has lasted forever and where we've had years seem to compress into seconds. And so, time is not something that we actually have, but our attention and focus is what gives us that control over time, that control over what we do and how we do it. And so I look at that within that same aspect of balance, right? So what I'm trying to balance is my attention and my focus, not my time, my priorities, anything like that. Even priorities are going to be determined by our attention and our focus.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time working with clients, and even when I speak, talking about understanding what your North Star is, which is another word for saying what is my focused point that I'm aiming at, that determines how all the other decisions will be made, including how you spend time. I think it resonates well with that.
Yeah, we always refer to that as purpose, or in our particular systems, desired end state, right? So what's the future feel like once we're successful, is what we found to be the most effective way to describe a purpose, which is something that drives a specific end.
And as you're aiming towards a specific future, I think it's worth sometimes pausing to consider the past. When you think back to your own personal origin story, when you think back to you as a kid, where did you come from? What was it like?
Yeah, if you would have known, or if you would have seen me as a kid, I would have definitely been voted least likely to be a Navy SEAL.
Why is that?
I was, and this is a podcast, so you're here not seeing, but I'm 6'2", 6'3", over 200 pounds. So I am what most people would look at and expect a Navy SEAL to look like, even though that's not the reality. I'm actually on the bigger side of Navy SEALs, but I was not what you would think would become eventually a 6'3", 200 pound badass. I was a little skinny dork I was 5'2" and 103 pounds in high school, all the way through the end of my sophomore year. It wasn't until my junior year. Between my junior and senior year, I grew almost 8 inches in one summer.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And where did you grow up?
In Pittsburgh. So I grew up in the city in Pittsburgh, and growing up in the city in Pittsburgh, if you didn't play football, baseball, and or basketball, you were, a dork. And for me, if it had a ball or a team, I was absolutely useless at it. And so on top of that, I had a desire from seeing Top Gun in 3rd grade that I was going to go to the Naval Academy to be a fighter pilot. And so starting all the way back in 3rd grade, I started working towards that goal. So again, a little kid that's skinny, short, not good at ball teams or ball sports, and wants to go to the Naval Academy in 4th grade. You can imagine I did not have the easiest childhood. I got bullied quite horribly through middle school as well as the beginning of high school. And that was really the origin of my story when it comes to becoming a Navy SEAL. And that concept, and ultimately it does feed into what we do now, in that bullying is, at least from my perspective, when someone that has power uses it to hurt someone that does not. And when I got that opportunity, that awareness that Navy SEALs were the biggest, the baddest, most capable bully hunters out there, because that's what we did, was we went out and we hunted the people that had power, that used it to hurt those that don't. And so I was hooked, right? It was 7th grade. As soon as I saw that there was someone out there that did that, and we got to blow stuff up legally, I was in.
Those sound like pretty beautiful hooks. And I love that you saw Top Gun and that started your journey. And now the next Top Gun will be out later this next year.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, I know. It's my boys are 4, 5, and 3. So I can't wait to take my 5-year-old there, see what that starts.
Right. You could be treading down a dangerous path for
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
As you were being bullied, and that seems to be a common topic among many of our guests. So one of our recent guests and one of the top martial artists in the world, Lauren Abaddon, said he was bullied as a child before he learned martial arts. We hear this from so many people. How did you deal with it then, knowing that, okay, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL in the future, but right now I'm not? How did you deal with that and make it through that time?
Was actually one of the best gifts that I was able to receive, and it actually provided the fuel that enabled me to be a SEAL. So it was all through self-regulation, and for me, self-regulation is the ability to mentally, physically, and emotionally drive a different end than your brain, body, or head is telling you what to do. And so when it comes to that self-regulation, I was about to get expelled from what would have been middle school. I guess it was 2nd grade. So because I fought all the time. I was small, so I got beat up most of the time. But if someone said something or did something, I had a twin sister. We had just transferred to a new school, and we started getting picked on. And all someone had to do was say something, especially if it was to my sister, and I would immediately lose it. So I had the shortest temper there was, and no self-regulation. And I remember going to, it would have been a behavioral psychologist. Now I know what it is, but
Right.
Then it was a fat lady with a cat. And in that moment, she explained that all the bullies wanted from me was a reaction, right? They just wanted me to yell, to cry, or to fight. And that if I didn't yell, cry, or fight, they didn't get what they wanted, right? So I could win without having to fight. Like, actually fighting to them was losing, right? I was giving them what they wanted. And so it wasn't about being the strongest or being able to win a physical altercation or even a yelling match. It was a matter of, if they couldn't see the reaction that I was feeling, then I won. And so after making that connection as a kid, I remember, and my parents have told me since, that it was a really weird transition. I went from the most emotive kind of emotive kid, right? Reactionary, very sensitive to a rock. Then there was zero interaction, and I could see that I was winning, right? So when I went to school the next day, and there was the same bullying, the same thing, and I didn't react, I could see that frustrated him. It didn't mean it stopped, but at least I was winning, and so that's how I got through it. So I just turned into, no matter what someone said or did, there was no reaction on my part, which, as I've learned now, creates that pattern of self-regulation is what trains the mind to be able to self-regulate in other ways. So I go to the Naval Academy. I get into the Naval Academy my freshman year, and for most of the kids that get there, they've always been the best, right? It's such a challenging thing to get into that most of them were the jocks in the school, the ones that were the most popular, that did the best. So when they finally got to that plebe summer where they're having to, they're getting yelled at for the first time and picked on, and they can't do anything about it, it was really impactful for most. For me, it was just Tuesday. Like,
right. You're like, I've done this before.
Yeah, I know how to do it here. Like, it didn't impact me at all. So I excelled through that. Then I got into the SEAL community and BUDS. I remember my first day of training. I was 2 hours into the first day there. You're still in your dress uniforms and you're getting yelled at, and you're doing push-ups, sets of 10 push-ups, which at that point, to get to where you were, I could do 1,000 push-ups. So, sets of 10 you think would be easy, but they know how to set it up so that you're going to fail. Like, you're not going to be able to do it. It took 3 hours, but eventually everyone is to the point of they can't do any more push-ups. And I remember watching people quit. So we're talking 2 hours of the first day of training, and people are quitting. And it was the most physically strong kids, or, trainees, or whatever you want to call them, candidates, because they had never failed. And here they are in the first couple hours failing at the simplest thing, doing a set of 10 push-ups. And the instructors were saying, like, how can you expect to survive this training if you can't do this? And that concept of failing, they couldn't get. And so they quit. And I remember when it started coming to me, started laying into me about, being an officer and not being able to show up for thing. And I was a waste of all this, that, the other thing, because I couldn't do 10 push-ups. And I started chuckling, which was not a good.
Sure, that went over well.
Not a good option. But like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, another day of Larry sucking. Like, I got this. Like, I know how to suck. Like, oh yeah, I suck. Yep. Yes, I do. I don't know yep. This has been my entire life. People telling me I suck. Yep. Got it. So that ability to self-regulate is what has provided the foundation for me to do really everything in my life. And I really think that when I look at overall what it takes to be successful, self-regulation is the foundation of it all.
When you saw those other people on that first day quitting, who'd never dealt with failure, what went through your head? What was the thought that maybe not even about you, but as you looked at them, was it sadness? Was it disappointment? Was it surprise?
No, it was good. Good riddance. Like, I'm glad, because I knew that where I was going, I knew I was getting through training. Right. There was no doubt in my mind that I was getting through training. And I knew that when I got through training, I'm about to go into the world's worst environments. Right. And we, you're in an entrepreneurial type audience, right? Everyone in your audience, is in a competitive space, right? Meaning you've got competitors. You've got
Right.
competitors for attention for podcasts. You got competitors in business. In my world, my competition tried to kill me. And they were good at it. I don't mean figuratively. I mean, literally, we were in a competition for who lives and who dies. So I knew I was going into the world's worst environments where our competition tried to kill us on a daily basis. The last thing I want is the person behind me not to be able to get yelled at for 2 hours. Right. So the more people that quit, the happier I was, because that person wasn't going to put my life at risk when they couldn't handle the pressure to come.
And as you progressed through the training, were there moments where you doubted, or did you always know, yes, I will be making it through this?
And ultimately you can't, right? So if you have a question, if you're going to make it through, you will quit. I look at that as a little seed. So if I have a tiny little seed that there might be a chance where I don't make it through, that instructor's job is to find that seed, plant it, put it in the most fertile soil, water it, and love it tenderly until a big tree of you're going to quit. And just to give you a concept of how the instructors are all SEALs, right? So every instructor has been through the training and then been out in the fleet and done the job and had to compete to get back, right? Being a BUD/S instructor is not an easy thing to do because they want the best guys. Do you think that those instructors lose very often?
No.
Do you think they are competitive?
Extremely.
Extremely, right? Do you think they're good at their job?
Very.
The best, right? And it doesn't matter what job you give them, they're going to be the best at any job. So they know that if it's them versus me, I'm a trainee, it's a competition, right? If I don't quit, they failed. And they don't fail at anything. I mean, that's how it's not personal, right? They don't care about Larry Yatch. They just know that this guy is trying to win. And if I make it through training, they lose. And they don't lose in anything. And so they're going to be able to, and they're smart. They're extremely smart, intelligent. They're very skilled. They're trained. They have years and years of science behind the scientific programming of how to make this the most difficult thing in the world. And so they're going to find a weakness if you have it. If you have a seed of doubt, they're going to find it, and you're done.
You continue forward from training and from we hear so much on TV about BUD/S, but training is much wider than that, right? It's really years long and then ongoing. How long from the time that you started, I guess, your SEAL training, that maybe BUD/S or whatever, until the time that you were actually released to be in the field with that trident?
I started training in September of 1998. And I deployed for the first time would have been like October of 2000.
That's a long time to be itching to get out there.
2 full years.
Yeah.
I have constant training. I mean, nonstop. There was no, it was nonstop training. And we deployed. We got back. So 6 months prior to, I think we got back right before September 11th. We got back a week before September 11th. So we probably left just after Christmas, something like that.
And you get back at that very difficult time.
Yeah, so it was 2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years.
Right. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask the impact of September 11th for you and on your career or even just your perspective.
Well, there's all sorts of, I've lost 24 friends, 24 of my friends are no longer here. Those are just the SEALs, much less my Naval Academy classmates and on from there. That's one impact. I've had 11 surgeries from my time in my injuries. So I'm in constant physical pain and, I'm only 43 and it hurts to, get up off the ground when I'm playing with my sons. I'm divorced, that I can't blame the SEALs for that one. That was some poor choices on my front to get into a relationship with that particular woman. But, the stress I put my current wife through with deployments to Lebanon, I still deal with post-traumatic stress, on a regular basis. Been working through that for 14 years. It's a heavy price to pay. And that's the other side is I got to live my dream. So on the positive side, I got to go to war with some of the best men on this planet and make a permanent positive impact on world events through operations that I got, I think honored to be able to take part of, to plan, to execute.
As you finally began to live your dream, as you get that trident and you get out there, What was that like? You'd looked forward to this from 7th grade on. That's a lot of years leading to a particular dream, fulfilling that. What did that feel like?
So there's two answers to that question. The first answer is I remember the first time that I finished what was kind of what would be the basic training before I got to my team and my platoon. So my first fighting unit. And I remember walking into what we refer to as the platoon space. So a platoon is the basic fighting unit of a SEAL team, and walking in and meeting my team for the first time, what was going to be my first platoon, and just listening to them. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I fit in. It was incredible because people ask, what's the common thread among SEALs? You can't be quite right in the head. Like, you got to be crazy. You can't be normal, because normal people wouldn't sign up for what we do. Normal people wouldn't ask to risk their life, like fight to risk their life on a daily basis. And for this first time, and I mean, I don't know about you, but feeling abnormal your whole life is hard. And
Yes.
to be able to feel normal, like, holy shit, I can say what's on my mind and someone's not going to think I'm crazy, for the first time in my life. Because if I ever really said what was on my mind, people thought I was nuts, because arguably I am, or I wouldn't have signed up for what I did. And so that ability to feel part of a team and to feel normal was unbelievable. And to me, that's what it meant to self-actualize, to really get to be me for the first time. So that was unbelievably incredible. The other part is being a high performer. And I think hopefully this will resonate. And this is a lesson that can save a lot of people out there, especially entrepreneurs, because like I said, Ann and I have started and run 4 successful companies post our careers in both my career in the SEALs, her career in the intelligence world. And it took us up until about 3 years ago to figure this one out. By the nature of being a high performer, we are conditioned to work hard today for a future payoff. So we work hard today, we struggle today because we're going to get a reward in the future. And that conditioning starts in school. And then those of us that are successful get rewarded for that sacrifice. And we get those little treats, like the A's on the papers and the good grades, and then the good school, and then the good job, and then the good promotion. And so we start to learn to live our life in the future, where we persevere through the present in order to create a better future that never gets here, because every time we're in the present, we're thinking about the future. And whenever you do that, you give life your purpose, right? The world gets to control your purpose because your purpose is controlled by the future. And that is where we can be successful in the moment, yet not feel fulfilled. And that's what I did in my SEAL career. Every time I was at this next level, all I was doing was planning, thinking, and executing on how I got to the next level. As soon as I got in the SEALs, how can I set myself up to be a platoon commander? As soon as I get to be a platoon commander, how do I set myself up to go to development group or SEAL Team 6? Right. So what was the core amazing part of my career, where we were at war. I mean, we were running the biggest operations that SEALs have ever run to date. And all I was doing was trying to figure out, how do I get to the next piece? And when we started our companies, we started doing the same thing, where no matter what success we saw, we were always working towards the next. And it wasn't until I saw this awareness that, holy crap, I'm going to die. I'm going to get to the point where everything's done and I'll never met success, because I'll always say that success is the next thing. And so we made a major switch in our life 3 years ago around that awareness of that. I call it the trap of high performance, not trying to get out of that.
And how did you switch that?
So in this trap of high performance is this concept that I suffer today or work hard today. It doesn't necessarily have to be suffer, right? So I work hard, strive today for a future reward. The alternative is to make your goal, your objective, not a future world, but make your goal or objective a positive daily experience that is sustainable into the future. So if I'm focusing on making every day unbelievable in a sustainable way, I win today. I don't win someday. And when you identify that, you make many different decisions, right? It's a lot easier to say, well, I'm not going to do that project that takes me away from my family, takes me away from my objective, my objective being today being amazing. If today's going to suck and the next 6 months are going to suck because maybe I get paid a big paycheck in 6 months, when am I going to enjoy it? 6 months come, I get that paycheck. What am I going to do? I'm going to be right into the next project, the next program, the next thing. So, we took this to the extreme as we do, and we sold everything we owned. We had a 5-bedroom house on a lake in one of the biggest lakes in Minneapolis. We had boats, cars, all sorts of stuff. We sold everything. So we sold everything that didn't fit into. We have 2 young boys at the time, so they were 1.5 and 3.5. We said that each of us got a suitcase and a plastic bin, and we set it up to where we would only live somewhere that we didn't have to own the place. We didn't have to own any stuff, so no pots, pans, furniture, anything like that. We had to identify the place based on the experience it offered the family, us as a couple, and us as individuals, and that we weren't stay there for longer than 6 months, because we knew if we did, we were going to recreate the same situation we had for the first 30
you
years.
Default to the comfort of the habit rather than the excitement of the experience.
Yep. So we are I'd say semi-nomadic. I like to tell people we're homeless, which is by choice. We still don't own anything that doesn't fit in the back of a truck. We generally use or go to Airbnbs for short terms, or we find other creative ways to have a place to live that is furnished, because we don't want to buy anything. And we really only live places people vacation. So right now we're in South Florida, just north of Fort Lauderdale. We're going to Park City, Utah for February, at least February and March for ski season. We'll probably stay there through June. We'll be spending 8 days on a catamaran sailing around Puerto Rico over Thanksgiving, as we've been building up our ability and our skill to eventually live on a sailboat for a chunk of time.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And to be clear, our business and our life did not support this when we made the choice. We have systematically built a business and a life that supports it. And in that, yes, we have not made as much money as we could have before, but we've had a hell of a lot more fun. And it's sustainable, right?
So what's the difference been for the family? You described sort of what the goals were, right? You want this experience and this connection. What has now that you've made these practical changes, not for a couple months, but for years, what has the real difference been for you and your family and your actual experience?
The biggest thing is connection, right? By far, right? What has been the biggest benefit is connection. So connection between my wife and I, the connection between each one of us and our boys, the connection between the boys has been 10 times what it was before, because ultimately a human being has to feel secure, and most human beings base their security on their surroundings, right? That's why we like consistent surroundings. And any parent out there knows, you take your well-behaved 5-year-old and you bring him to grandma's house and they act like an idiot. So anytime that we take humans out of the environment when they've attached their security to their environment, and arguably we as adults do the exact same thing, it's the default. It's the easiest. We can default to security of environment, and the second thing we default to is security around routine, right? Where we do the same thing over and over again. If you take those two away, we default to what drove us as cave people to feel secure, which is the tribe. Right. And ultimately, that's the most powerful connection we can have is tribe, right? Are the people that we rely on to live, to survive, and to thrive. And that's why we do what we do as a company, right? When we know that your ultimate success in life depends on your ability to coordinate action with others. And I just said that quick, but this is extremely profound. Our success in life is determined by our ability to coordinate action with others. If you can coordinate action at a very high level, you'll have an unbelievable success. If you can't coordinate action with yourself, you'll end up on the street. And so once we've taken away the environmental security and the routine security, we defaulted to the interpersonal security of connection. And that's what's been just beautiful. And that's expounded not only on a couple level, a family level, a parenting level, but within our own business, right? We found, because we didn't have community set up in the places we went, we created community in our business, because our business is designed to serve us first. Mm-hmm. And then through that, we can serve our clients better. And so we've created an unbelievably strong community within our business as well, selfishly, which ultimately serves our clients really, really well.
What's been hard about that transition? It sounds like the benefits are incredible and well outweigh any challenges that may be there, but what's been hard about it?
Yeah, the biggest thing about hard is it's freaking hard. It's like, it's a really simple answer. Like, it's hard. Like,
right, fair enough.
Imagine having to set up, every time you go to a new place, you've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, right? We got to set up childcare. We've got to set up dentists. We got to set up doctors. We got to set up a place to work, place to live. I mean, it's amazing how quick we've gotten it moving. We can move our entire being. And this is a family of 4. Like, it's just not a couple living in a van, right? We've got a family of 4. We can move our entire family of 4 in less than a day, about 6 or 7 hours. And why? Because we don't own a lot of stuff. Why don't we own a lot of stuff? Because we invest in experiences, not stuff, right? And so within that, the hardest part is just the coordination of moving and all the different pieces. And we're now getting, people often ask about, well, what are we doing with the kids? We've used Montessori education as a consistent place, because Montessori schools are set up very consistently, so they can move from Montessori to Montessori and not have any shift. It's very easy for them, but we're getting to the point where our oldest is about done with that. So this is where, to me, the biggest, and I know this is a controversial statement, but the biggest stealer, that thief of freedom in the American society is the school system. I mean, it steals your time from you. It steals your ability to choose when and how your child's educated. It steals when you can go on vacation. It steals, it's amazing. Like I am not a huge fan. And that's from someone that built and ran a company that created curriculum for schools. So, like, we got in the back, the behind the curtains look, and we're starting to see that pressure already of, okay, if we have to get him into a normal school, all of a sudden that takes away a ton of freedom. So we aren't quite ready. We were hoping to be ready to start doing homeschooling, but we haven't built the business in an automated way enough to give my wife and I enough capacity to do that, because one or the other of us is not, we both are critical within the business. So we're in that space of navigating that. And that's going to be the hardest part over the next year, is figuring out, okay, what do we do when it comes to education? Ultimately, I think we'll end up doing homeschooling, but that's probably a couple of years out before we get to that point.
That makes sense. And I connect with a lot of the challenges of the school system, working through it with my currently 16-year-old junior in high school, and working through IEPs and structures and all of that are challenging to how he might otherwise learn. So I definitely resonate with that. You have taken 4 companies, as you said, and built them. How did you get the entrepreneurial bug? I guess first, how long were you in the SEALs and until you got out? And then, was the entrepreneurial bug there before, or did it come after? How did that work?
I was a SEAL for 10 years. So from 1998 to 2008, I was injured and medically retired. So it wasn't my choice to not be a SEAL anymore. It was something that a surgeon scalpel decided for me, botched surgery. And when I was lying in the hospital bed, when the surgeon came in and told me my whole purpose for being and my dream since I was in third grade, right? From Top Gun, I knew I was going to be in the military. And then from seventh grade, a SEAL, with no plans. I had no imminent plans of ending my career. Told me I couldn't do that anymore. I was lost. And it was my wife that came up with a concept. So her concept, because I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was thinking, I'm physically broken, so I can't do any of the traditional means of law enforcement or contracting or the like. What company needs someone that's really good at breaking stuff? And obviously that's a limited view, but ultimately that's where I was. And she came up with the concept that ultimately leadership was what I was the best at, because that's what I did my entire career. And leadership and teaching are the same thing in my book. Creating an environment for someone to make a better choice is what leaders do, and that's what teachers do. And so she planted the bug around this concept of leveraging my unique way of seeing things and communicating it, especially with her background in the intelligence field of understanding how people work, that we could have a big impact through this educational concept. But ultimately, my decision to be entrepreneurial was based on math and knowing that if I went a traditional route, I wasn't going to be able to reach my ambition for a lifestyle that we would be able to live comfortably now and then into the 40 years of retirement that we wanted to have. And when I just did the math, I wasn't going to get there, even having an engineering degree from the Naval Academy and being an officer in the SEALs. Like, I can get a pretty good job, but that job, even if we were really careful, was going to be limiting in the long term. And so I saw the only path to fulfill our ambition was going to be based on being able to produce something of significant value. The second piece was freedom. I fought for freedom. That's the reason that I became a SEAL, was freedom from tyranny, freedom from those that were going to take away our way of life. And I didn't want to go trade my freedom for a paycheck. And that was the other big piece. And ultimately, that's what we do now, is having the experience of building and running a series of companies, we know the least free people in the world are entrepreneurs, right. Business owners and entrepreneurs. Like, it's this, like that old statement that only an entrepreneur will trade a 40-hour job for a 90-hour job, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what we found is that within organizations, within companies that are especially growing companies, they get stuck at certain revenue ceilings, and their freedom gets stolen from them, right? The entrepreneur, or they give it up, right? Where not having the support they need, not having the processes and structures in place to be able to create an opportunity for their business to work for them, is something we do. And the way we do that is around processes and structures, around leadership and management. If you're struggling in a business as a business owner, it's because you don't have the support you need. And ultimately, you probably don't have the time to develop the leaders you need to support you in the way you need them to support you. So we outsource that, right? You give us your mediocre managers, and we return kick-ass leaders a number of months later.
It's a fantastic transition. As you've worked through these 4 companies, what is maybe the biggest lesson that you've learned along the way as an entrepreneur, or I guess as a SEAL as well? I'm sure you've learned a lot, but
Well, thanks for making it a really narrow question.
Right now, but I was thinking really in running these 4 companies, I decided to just make it really open after that. But let's
I mean, we can probably answer that a couple different. Well, we can hit that a couple different ways, because there's domain specific. There's all sorts of big ones, but I would say one of the biggest ones is, one of them just on the business side that continues to be, one of the hardest things is, if you don't know how to market, you're screwed. Right? Like, you can have the best concept, the best structure, the best process, the best team, the best product, but if you don't know how to communicate it to those that need it, good luck. And I'd say the biggest struggles we've had throughout our growth of our organizations has been effectively marketing. And so if you're going to invest in education and knowledge and or really good resources, that's one of the big ones for us, is really being able to learn how to communicate what you do, the benefits you provide, and get that message in front of the right people at the right time is critical. So that's been one of the big learning points for me. I never thought that I would be spending so much time learning, leveraging, and spending time marketing. But as a CEO, my job is twofold. My job is, one, to make sure that I've created an environment for my leaders to make the company work. And that means I'm process, structure, training, education, management. The second thing is, for me, is to be on the front end, making sure that I'm able to get our message in front of the right people, at least on the top side. And so those two roles are critical roles.
As you think about so many entrepreneurs that you encounter in your role as the CEO of this company, and also as you think about maybe entrepreneurs in our audience who would be beginning, what would you call out as the most important characteristic of an entrepreneur if they're going to be successful?
No, that's easy. Learning culture, right? You have to, your ability to, your success is dependent on how quick and how deeply you're going to learn, right? And if you're not in a learning culture, you're going to fail. I mean, absolutely, shadow of a doubt. And that learning culture can be broken down into a bunch of different things that we look at, but that core concept of always in constant learning, constant curiousness, the fact that if you think you know something, that's the sign that you're wrong. And so always being in that state is one of the core characteristics necessary for success.
Like when I was younger, I thought I convinced myself that I knew everything. And the older I get, the more I realize the less I know, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was the same thing in the intelligence community. The last 3 years of my career was working in the kind of the underbelly of this special operations world within human intelligence, surveillance, that type of stuff. And I got to be involved in some really unique things. And what I realized as I got deeper and deeper was, the deeper I got, the more that I realized I don't know anything. Like, there is so much that you don't know. And the other thing that was amazing to me is no one knows everything.
Right.
Like, it's because there's so many silos that it's incredible. So I had the same experience of, like, the more that I learned, the more access I got, the more the higher credentials and the more programs I got access to, the more I'm like, holy crap, this is just a pin drop.
Yeah, it was a harsh education for me to figure that out, for sure. Are there any particularly useful resources that have made it easier to do what you do, whether it be books or people or podcasts or anything that you might recommend for our audience? And we can include them in the show notes if there are.
I'm trying to, this is another thing I would not suggest. So I have had a habit that I've been working on changing, of always doing everything the hardest way possible. And this is not a good trait to have.
No, I share that trait. So
yes. And so I've been in a big development mode. So for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been spending a ton of time designing and refining some really interesting products around both training products as well as software around creation of high functioning teams, behavior planning, behavior training. And what's interesting is, a lot of times when people see our content, they'll ask me, oh, did you get this from book A or book B or book C? And I always would say, no, it's because I spent 15 years in a cave, breaking things apart, piece by piece, and putting them together, and then testing them, and then breaking them again, and refining. So I look at that as validation, right? Fundamental principles, you're going to be able to see those themes throughout really good stuff. And so I've spent the last 5 years really isolated in design on my own. So I went from consumption to really a big phase of isolation and growth. And I'm just now getting to the point of saying, okay, poking my head back up to say, okay, it's time to start looking for outside resources. So oddly enough, like not lately, the last chunk of things that I spent a lot of time on that I think are really valuable is getting a firm understanding, especially if you're in a leadership or management position, is getting a firm understanding, a firm grasp of neuroscience. That's really changed my understanding of the dynamics of how to interact with people, as well as how to design training programs and content, all by learning some pretty intense neuroscience. So the couple books that were key for that there's one called Brain Rules, which I thought was a really, really good one. I remember that as a parent, there's a Brain Rules for Baby that was really interesting as well. And it's been a long time since I went through those. Another one, like I said, self-regulation was a big key for me. Iron War is another book that's about the top 2 Ironman triathletes and their epic 10-year battle. And it really, the story in and of itself is amazing, but they went into some pretty good neuroscience around self-regulation, which I think is a critical trait. So I'll give those two a shout out. And they might be dated. I mean, those are probably 5 years old at this point.
That's all right. Well, and in the information economy, that's certainly, it feels like forever in many ways, but they sound quite valuable. We'll include them in the show notes. What does the phrase "dreams are real" mean to you?
Oh, we can go really deep on this one if you want. Probably never, you'll never get an answer like this one again. We'll see. So I don't believe that my existence, the world, is real. Just fundamentally,
Okay.
I don't believe that I experience any part of my world directly. So I believe that even I'm holding this cup in my hand right now. The sensation of me holding this cup is not direct. It's through it's neurochemical and electrical impulses happening in my brain. And with the right external sensation, I can experience the same feeling without actually having the cup in my hand. So our reality is our perception of stimuluses that our body's receiving. Therefore, nothing that we don't experience anything for real or for direct. So I would say that what was your dreams are
dreams
real?
are real.
Yeah. So I would say that, my big thing is that everything that I experience in my life, I create in my head. There is not one thing that is real. So for me, my entire reality is a dream, because ultimately it's what my brain makes up.
That's definitely a different answer than I've heard. I love it. I think I'm gonna have to ponder that for a while later.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because then you start thinking about if that's true, that my perception is my reality. Can I alter my perception? Yes, I can do that chemically. I can do that through meditation. I can do that through changing the filters, my mindset, the filters through which I see things. That means that I control my entire reality. And that means if there's something that I don't like in my reality, here's another one that I love. I'm exactly where I want to be 100% of the time, right? 100% of the time. That means everything that I like, everything I don't like is I'm choosing and I'm creating. And therefore I can shift any of that if I wanted to.
That's a hard one, but an inspiring one to work with, I think.
Yep.
This will make for an interesting twist on the final question of this section, which is, how do you feel when others cite you as an example that dreams are real? And maybe more, think of this one in terms of aspirations, the things that people aspire
not
to.
My deep,
right? Not your deep thoughts. We'll pull this one back out a little, right?
It makes people's heads hurt. Like I
right?
love, I can
love
get
that.
a little bit more on that, and people start drooling. Like,
oh man, I'll tell you, I feel like I could have a long conversation. I feel like I could do a whole episode with you just about the one question we just got done with.
Yeah.
But we'll move forward in the interest of time. And when people do say, "Hey, you're an example to them that inspires them, that man, dreams are real, dreams do come true," how do you feel?
I'm completely blank on that. The reason being is, by the nature of what I went through as a SEAL, you can't have any need for external validation, right? If you do, then you're going to quit, because they're going to not only devoid you of any positive reinforcement, but they're going to have constant, ever present, and very effective negative feedback, negative enforcement. And so, both from my experience as a kid with the bullies, of learning that if I controlled my emotions, then I could win, tied to then a SEAL experience where if I needed external validation, I was not going to get my goal. Like, I have to honestly say that when you say that, like, I don't feel anything around him. Like, well, that's good. Hopefully it's inspirational. But it doesn't really do much for me.
It doesn't evoke much for you, right?
It does not evoke much. So, damn it, I think I screwed up both of your big questions.
I think you've given fascinating answers to both. So
That's what I said, right? Not normal. Don't fit in.
That's right. I don't know that I've met anybody maybe in the special forces community that I would call normal.
You can't be. They're mutually exclusive. And that to me is one of the most important messages, right? If you are striving to be normal, that means you're striving to never do anything exceptional, because exceptional and normal don't intersect. So, the more you want to be normal, the less opportunity you have to do anything of note or of worth, of significant worth.
I think at some point when I was younger, it connected with me that the worst insult someone could give me would be to tell me I was normal.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Now, mind you, I spent a lot of my younger childhood thinking the opposite of that, but now I get there. As we begin to wrap up, we'll move into our Fortunate 5. These are 5 questions that I ask everyone. I think they're going to be pretty easy for you, man. They can be short or long, but we'll get there. The first is, what's the most exciting or adventurous thing you've ever done? And man, your list has got to be huge, but what would you put at the top?
This week, or?
This one I do leave broad. Most people need the breadth. You're having to narrow it down.
Yeah. Recently? Yeah. I would say, what is the most adventurous or exciting thing I've done?
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, I would say the opening night of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So SEAL Team 3 was responsible for the largest special operations mission in U.S. history to date, forever and to date. We were responsible for securing Iraq's oil infrastructure before anything else happened. So shock and awe was not the first thing. We went on our mission before anyone else did anything. And because Saddam had promised to blow up the oil infrastructure, there are 5 nodes. My team was responsible. My particular team that I did the planning and tactical leadership for had the most dangerous one, which was securing the world's largest oil platform. So just to put it in layman's terms, my job was to take my small team of SEALs, and go have a gunfight on the world's largest gas station that was most likely rigged with explosives.
Wow.
So
that does qualify as a pretty good answer to this question.
Yeah, I would say the other thing is, I got some inside knowledge from one of my academy classmates that was an aide to our commanding officer that our expected casualty rate for that mission was 50%. And so they had said yes to us going, knowing that half of our forces were going to be injured or killed in the successful completion of that. So I wasn't obviously not supposed to know that, but imagine stepping into the car to go to work, knowing that you had a 50-50 chance, a coin flip chance of getting to work, and then being the leader of that group, knowing that my decisions, my plan were going to result in half of my best friends in the world being injured or killed. So
very sobering moment.
Yes, it is. And so, and if it isn't, get a coin, right? Yeah. Toss the coin and see if it lands on heads or tails. And then if it lands on heads, you're dead. Better yet, think about handing it to your wife. And now the fact that you handed her that coin, she has a 50-50 chance of dying. That's the weight that I was holding at 27 years old.
That's incredible. And I didn't say it earlier, but I, at least while we were recording, but I will say thank you for your service, man. It means a ton.
Yeah, and ultimately, to me, again, like I go back to what we do now. You know, we had not only were we 100% successful on that, but I didn't lose one SEAL on that mission, and they would have told me that's impossible. The same processes and structures and leadership that enabled that to be effective is what we teach. So if you need that in your organization, let us know. Like our purpose now, like you said, what was it like being in that hospital room when the doctor took away my purpose? Now I get to live it exponentially, because instead of just my own physical skill and physical capability leading our impact, we're impacting thousands of people a year through our education and our processes. So there's nothing that fills us up more than being able to share these things with as many people as possible.
Yeah, I tried to come up with a comment. I don't have one. That's just such a powerful story.
You
And
had to ask that. I mean, you should have said, "What's the most exciting thing I did last week?" Even
no,
that.
I love it. I love it. It's not that I don't. Yeah, it's not. I guess it's not that I don't have a comment. It's more sifting through the many comments that I
Yes,
have.
I gotcha.
The second question is, what is something that you wish you were good at but aren't yet?
Oh, that's easy. I started playing the guitar almost a year ago, and my hands have always been used for destruction. I mean, and violence. And I never thought that I could make something beautiful. I've never been artistic, never been able to draw, and the ability to make music and have something beautiful, make something beautiful that's my own, has been so freaking cool. Writing and teaching has always been an aspect of that, but I never really saw that as hands, more head and mouth. But being able to play the guitar and make music's been amazing. So if I would be instantaneous lead guitar rock star material. That's what I'd want to do right now, and I'm getting there. It's taken time, but I'm going to get there.
It's fantastic. A lot of our audience are creatives, and many of whom are musicians, because that's a lot of our client base. And I'm sure that many of them would love to connect and work on that lead guitar.
Oh, it's so cool. I love it. And being able to play with other people it's the first time I've felt, other than my hobby is I'm a professional skydiver with a group of SEALs.
So pretty normal hobby.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, what's the most exciting thing you've done? Like, oh, we jumped into an NFL game, a couple of weeks ago. But that I get that same aspect of connection with a team, but they get playing music with someone else, especially as I didn't start playing with the intention to learn others' music. It was to create music. So I don't know how to play any songs. I just wanted tools to be able to make music.
Right.
So when I play with someone, it's all freestyle, and it's one of the cool. I get that same sense that I got, oddly enough, when we were playing with machine. Like there's a music and a rhythm to a gunfight, and especially like you've got the bass of the M60s, and they have to, because you can't. An M60 is a belt-fed machine gun. You can't just hold the trigger down and shoot, or the barrel will melt. So you can only shoot a couple rounds at a time, 3 to 4. And so you have up to 4 60s in a platoon. And when you're fighting, you sing off each other. Like one say, dun, 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 and you get into this rhythm back and forth. And then you have the high pitch of the who thought you could make a gunfight?
I was gonna say, I guess that's true heavy metal, right?
Oh, talk about it. Yeah. So you get that same sense of, you got to listen and play off each other. But the joy that I feel when I'm jamming with someone else has been unbelievable. And I realize it's that feeling of connection that I felt with my team.
What is the best meal or food experience you've ever had?
Jeez. I love meat, like absolutely love meat. The one that really sticks with me is when I graduated high school, the gift that I asked for from my parents was to go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and get the porterhouse for 2 for myself. And I remember that as one of the high points, being able to have it's like 48 ounces of meat, beautiful beef just for myself.
That's a pretty good meal.
Yeah, man. There's been quite a bit, but that one sticks out.
What is your dream travel destination? Where have you not been that you want to go?
I want to put our family on a 45-foot sailboat and sail around the world. So it's not it's more of I want to spend 6 months a year sailing around from place to place as opposed to one place. Being the sense of freedom I get and magic that I get on a sailboat is incredible. You get this huge thing, this huge vehicle that is moving through the water at 12, 13, 14 knots silently with an invisible force blowing it. Like it is pure magic and absolute freedom because, with a water maker, solar and wind, you can literally go anywhere in the world.
It's a beautiful image. What do you hope or believe will be the most exciting invention of the next 30 years?
I know I've gotten to do some really cool work with some super high tech companies, and what they're doing with artificial intelligence is, both staggering, amazing, and scary all at the same time. And so I know we're not far away from having some real quantum leaps based on leveraging of artificial intelligence and massive computing. I mean, I don't know what's going to come from it. I just know we're close. Right. We're close to having some pretty impactful stuff. So I'd say that's what I would look at.
I think that's both scary and exciting at the same time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's a company I worked with in the UK that it's I love process and structure. So once I got the fundamentals of what they're doing, it's mind blowing what the machine can do.
Yeah, I've worked with some call center technology even that is incredibly predictive and developmental, which blew me away. And that's such a tiny application. As we wrap up, man, I totally appreciate you for taking the time to sit and chat. Is there a certain thought or message you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yeah, this is the biggest one by far. Your success in life is determined by your ability to coordinate action with others. If you have struggle or strife in your life, look for where you're in discord with others. And if you want to gain more success, look to where you can coordinate more effectively with higher functioning people, and you can answer any problem you have. And that ties into what we do. So if you're struggling with that, that's what we do. We teach you as an individual, or we teach your organization how to create high functioning teams that coordinate action quickly, effectively at super low cost. And I don't know how I can save you, and I look at it like a bleeding. If you're an entrepreneur that's struggling with time and not having resources, your company's bleeding, and we can save your life by being able to up the way that you lead and up, most importantly, the way that you build and grow leaders in your organization. And so that's the biggest one. If you're struggling anywhere in your life, where are you not coordinating action with others?
I love it. Where can people find you online, and what are you working on that they should know about?
I'll say the best way you can find me is I have a personal website. So Larry360.com. So really simple, LARRY360.com. You can connect with me on all my social medias, as well as we have some free courses there. We have videos, everything you could imagine. Just go to that site and you can connect directly with me, which is awesome. So once again, that's Larry360.com. And then stuff we're working on. So we have run some unbelievable events with some amazing organizations. So our company, the transition we've made recently is from taking super high-end corporate programs. So we brought corporate leadership and events into what would be over 10 million and above. So we like to play within the $100 million a year companies up to $1 billion. We took all of that work and we're now making it available to individuals. That's what I'm most excited about. We're talking $100,000, $200,000 programs that we were deploying in the companies that you now have access to as an individual, either through digital or through our live courses that are virtually live, virtual online, and are some really cool events. Like, just to give you an idea of how we do events, we're running our first event that, again, is open to the public in December, where we do 2 days of leadership and development. And then we're chartering 2 racing sailing yachts where you learn how to sail and then race the boats in January, we're doing a leadership and management course where, again, it's 2-3 days of working, learning and working. And then on the third day, you'll learn how to race cars on ice. So ice racing in Minnesota. We're doing another event in March, which will be around either drifting or rally racing. So our intent is to give you access to learning and content that's only ever been accessible to extremely large companies, one-on-one coaching with myself or our team, and then experiences that you would pay a ton for anyway, to be able to experience things that you've never been able to experience. So that's what I'm super excited about, is being able to bring all the stuff that we've been running for big organizations, but offering it to individuals has been so cool because we can impact so many more people.
Sounds like a lot of incredible events and amazing work that you are doing. Larry Yatch, founder and CEO of SEAL Team Leaders. Thank you so much for joining me and taking the time. Thank you for joining us on the Dreams Are Real podcast. If anything we've said has inspired you to dream bigger, live more boldly, or move closer to your ideal life, please reach out and let us know, and also be sure to share this episode with a friend. We would be honored if you would like, subscribe, and leave a review for our show on your favorite podcasting platform. And for more discussion of this episode and all things related to the Dreams Are Real podcast, and to receive your free download of Dan's Defining Your North Star training, please join our Dreams Are Real community on Facebook. Until next time, be amazing and keep crushing it.